What are the major regulatory topics you are currently monitoring at Sapient?
I look after our regulatory reform portfolio. So any of our initiatives that relate to responding to Dodd-Frank or the European equivalents such as EMIR or MiFID, we typically break our portfolio up into sort of the capital-derived projects, so clearing, collateral, margin for uncleared trades. Our reporting portfolio, which is, as I mentioned before, about all the transaction and position reporting required under Dodd-Frank and EMIR. And then sort of more our general compliance efforts around business conduct standards, so confirmations, portfolio compression, reconciliations. So each of them, depending on who you're talking to and who it's impacting in the bank, will tell you that's the hot topic and probably the biggest challenge.
Do you foresee challenges with a move by regulators toward more prescriptive and less principles-based rules?
So, taking Dodd-Frank as an example, it's an isolated rule writing process. So you have the events where you might be involved in the initial consultation, but the next time you'll see the rules is when they're sort of published, and you then have the process of going through the interpretation and making sure that your original response to consultation is reflected in the interpretation. And there can be periods of months between that, which again creates uncertainty. Being able to achieve anything above basic compliance becomes very difficult. So it actually is almost counterintuitive. It goes against what the original intention was, to create transparency and efficiencies in the business models by creating a focus on purely getting compliant and meeting timelines rather than achieving the original goals.
How will this affect the regulatory timeline?
Possibly the frustration for many market participants in that you would have almost preferred a model where you defined sort of a best practice that the market could adopt, as we did with the Fed letter process, and then over time you would then look to institutionalize it through rules once you've kind of proven its worth within the market. But I guess the reality is, in the current political environment, that process takes too long, and there is going to be more of a drive for sort of the harder rules required to ensure that we don't see the events of 2007, 2008 again.
What is the clearing connectivity standard, and what is Sapient's role in its development?
The introduction of CCS highlighted the need for a standard around a very important post-trade function for clearing and collateral movements. I think the long-term solution, beyond where CCS right now, which is really just kind of a series of best practices and data fields, will be moving and adopting to a standard like FPML or potentially a fixed equivalent where we can get some SDP and genuine levels of automation. I mean, that's ultimately the goal from a control perspective and for a business efficiency side.
After CCS is implemented for credit and interest rate swaps, will others follow suit?
I think CDS and IRS were elected as sort of the primary test beds for the model to work out if we could come up with a standard set of fields and a standard process. The logical thing from there is to expand not only the product range but also the range of CCPs that it connects to as well. So there are a number of steps, not only, as I said before, in terms of moving towards a more automated model, but a more inclusive framework that brings in other financial market infrastructure and other products as well.
What are you seeing in terms of overall readiness with the new regulatory regime?
If you were to talk around clearing, it's a difficult thing to gauge readiness because it will depend a lot on where the organisation was starting from and also their aspirations of where they want to be, whether they're going to provide indirect clearing services or whether they're just going to clear through another clearing member. So it's more difficult to gauge on that side. Certainly when we look at test trades as a fairly good barometer of readiness. We would probably estimate that somewhere between 50% of the buy side community sort of testing trades as a good indicator of sort of how ready they are. And I think that's pretty good given the amount of uncertainty there is in the market.